Hi brolies, Marvin here from techbroll.com, where we do unboxings, reviews, and sexy b-rolls. And today we're going to do an unboxing review of the ASUS ROG Falchion 65% wireless mechanical keyboard. I must say, I'm really happy to see this big name mainstream brands starting to offer compact keyboards like this, as for the longest time, they just offer full-size and 10-keyless form factors, so this is certainly a breath of fresh air, especially for us enthusiasts and gamers alike. Now, honestly speaking, when I heard the news about this new form factor from ASUS ROG, I thought they are also going to cater to the usual feature a mechanical keyboard enthusiast is looking for, but I feel like this is still targeted more towards gamers, as I'll explain to you later. This isn't really a surprise since ROG is all about the Republic of Gamers anyway, right? With that being said, this interesting keyboard offers a lot of features that you otherwise won't see on most compact keyboards, both in terms of hardware and software features. We have a lot to discuss here, so let's get into it. Okay, so the packaging is nothing new, pretty similar to any ASUS ROG peripherals that I've tried before, but one thing that strikes me the most here is that it looks like what we have here is using a Cherry MX Red switch instead of their own ROG RX switch, which is kinda weird, especially given the fact that this keyboard is fairly new as well. I feel like they could have just used the non-standard ROG RX switch here since the layout of this keyboard is non-standard anyways. But more on that later, I'm getting ahead of myself now. Upon opening the box, the first thing that you will notice is the ASUS ROG Falchion keyboard itself, nicely protected by a non-woven fabric. We also have a couple of ROG eye stickers, a warranty card, the quick start guide written in different languages, and underneath this cardboard we have a few more items. We have a braided USB Type-C charging cable with an ASUS ROG branded Velcro strap. We also have a nifty USB Type-A to Type-C adapter that you can use alongside the charging cable to act as an extension for the wireless dongle, so that instead of plugging it directly at the back of your PC, it will be closer to your keyboard. Now, ASUS ROG also sent me their new ROG PBT double shot keycap set, which we're going to take a look at as well later. Okay, now let's finally take a look at the ASUS ROG Falchion. At first look and touch, it does have some weight to it, and it looks like we have an external casing right here, which is quite unique and I haven't seen anything like this before. Removing the keyboard away from it is pretty straightforward. You just have to lift it up like so. We also have this non-woven fabric right here, and removing that reveals the soft rubber layer with some small ROG logo as its pattern. This cover is made out of polycarbonate plastic with a brushed aluminum finish at the bottom and with 4 rubber feet. It also has some cutouts around it to keep the switch and ports as well as the side touch panel accessible. So this polycarbonate accessory can serve as a cover, as you can see here, to protect the keyboard from dust when not being used, and you can also use this as a bottom casing, and like I said, it has some cutouts for the ports. With this configuration, it makes the keyboard look like it has a high-profile case hiding the switches, and with a translucent finish, gives the illumination a more diffused effect. So yeah, a very innovative and unique design element that you won't typically see on most compact keyboards out in the market. Now let's move our focus on the ROG Falchion itself. In terms of the layout, it features a 65% form factor with some of the nav cluster keys here on the right side. But unfortunately, it has a non-standard layout. We could have easily used a set of keycaps for a 65 key layout, but for some reason, they've decided to keep things shorter with a shorter backspace, enter key, right shift key, and spacebar. So yeah, forget about replacing the keycaps on this keyboard unless you're willing to take the extra mile. In my honest opinion, making the keyboard a few millimeters shorter at the expense of keycap customization is not worth it. Like, the slight adjustment on the size doesn't really make sense in a real-world application. And if they wanted this to be more compact, they could have just settled with a standard 60% layout, right? Moving on, flipping it on the front side, you can easily tell that this keyboard features a low-profile chassis, which essentially means half of the switches are visible. We also have a small ROG logo here on the left side. Flipping it on the left side, we have the very unique side touch panel that is actually highly customizable, as I'll show to you later. The bottom chassis feature a slanted profile, and together with the cherry profile keycap, gives the keyboard a more ergonomic form factor to type with. Not to mention, we also have a flip-out stand to increase the angle even further. Now, turning it on the back side, we have our switch and ports. We have the switch for the wireless functionality, the USB Type-C port for charging, and the storage for the 2.4 GHz wireless dongle. Speaking of the wireless dongle, what I appreciate with this is the tiny form factor that minimizes its footprint on your front panel USB port. The storage space on the back side of the keyboard is also magnetic, so you don't have to worry about it falling off. Now, turning it all over at the bottom, we have 4 rubber feet, 2 flip-out stands with a rubber tip as well, an ROG eye logo, this diagonal pattern right here, and some technical information right here. Overall, in terms of the design and construction, although it is made mostly out of plastic, aside from the aluminum backplate, it is robust enough and doesn't flex at all. It weighs roughly around 526 grams. In terms of the fonts used, well, of course, we have the familiar ROG fonts right here, with the accent ROGI logo here on the escape key. We also have sub-legends on the side of some of the keycaps for their secondary functions. Speaking of secondary functions, you can toggle them using the FN key. So FN plus 1 to the plus sign for the function rows, and FN plus Q to U for the multimedia shortcuts, then FN plus A to H for different profiles, FN plus escape for backtick, and FN plus left shift plus backspace for the tilde key, FN plus left alt to start and stop macro recording, and FN plus the 2 alt keys for search. Of course, we have the usual FN plus Windows key to disable the start menu, and FN plus the right side keys here for the nav cluster keys. And then FN plus arrow keys to toggle the different lighting modes. Now, pressing FN plus caps lock will reset the keyboard to default settings, and then you can also press FN plus tab to disable the side touch panel if you're not into that. You can also adjust the brightness by pressing FN plus up or down arrow keys, and change the lighting effects by pressing FN plus left or right arrow keys. This keyboard features SMD LEDs or surface mounted LEDs, which means the LEDs are soldered on the PCB. They are true RGB LEDs, which means they can produce up to 16.8 million colors, and the transition between colors is quite smooth. It's not the brightest LED illumination I've seen so far, but it is fairly adequate even in a very dim environment like this. Moving on in terms of the keycaps, this keyboard features PBT double shot keycaps, which essentially means there is a separate material for the legends and it will not fade away over time. I cannot say the same though for the sub-legends, as they are just printed. In terms of the thickness of the keycaps, it is just around 1.2 to 1.3 mm. And since it is made out of PBT plastic, it will not shine that easily compared to ABS keycaps. As for the switches, like I said earlier, ASUS ROG opted for the traditional Cherry MX Red switches here instead of their own ROG RX Red switches. I feel like since we're already limited in terms of keycap customization with this non-standard layout, they might as well use the non-standard ROG RX switches here. Because to be honest, the ROG RX switch is actually pretty good and one of the best mechanical switch that I've tried so far in terms of the out-of-the-box experience. As for the Cherry MX Red switches, most of us are already familiar with this, with the quite lightweight actuation force of just around 45 grams. It is not the smoothest switch ever, and nowhere near the smoothness of the ROG RX Red switch. That's why I'm kinda disappointed with their decision here. Now let's move our focus towards the side touch panel. By default, it works as a volume control by swiping up and down to adjust the volume levels. The LED lining also serves as a battery level indicator by default, but it also lights up as you move your fingers across, giving you a more interactive experience. There are also a couple of tiny square LED indicator on both sides for windows and caps lock. Now, each notch on the touch panel adjusts the volume by 4, so you may have to swipe a few times if you want to reach the maximum volume. But the good thing here is that this touch panel can actually do more than that using the ASUS Armory software, which I'll show to you later. But essentially, you can assign it to a different function like a keyboard function, mouse function, window shortcuts, and a bunch of other things. This is a kind of feature that you will probably only see from big brands like ASUS ROG with their own R&D compared to budget brands that typically rely on OEM manufacturing with minimal freedom when it comes to design and features. Now, like I said earlier, you can use the USB Type-A to Type-C adapter alongside the charging cable so that you won't have to plug the wireless dongle at the back of your PC and have it closer to your keyboard and minimize interference or delay. Now, at this point, my thoughts about the ASUS ROG Falchion is kind of a mixed bag, especially when I go back and think about its limitations when it comes to customizability. And having these cumbersome cross-star stabilizers doesn't help with that. I don't care how smooth it is, but it is rattly as a rattlesnake, and removing and placing back the spacebar and other modifiers is a pain in the butt, so yeah. Here's a typing test so that you can have a better understanding of how the Cherry MX Red switches and the stabilizers on this keyboard sound with and without the polycarbonate cover. But before that, actually, a quick word from our sponsor. This portion of the video is sponsored by VIP SCD Key. VIP SCD Key is an online web store that offers software keys and game keys in a very competitive price and without the hassle of going to a physical store. One of the most frequently used software keys is none other than the Windows 10 key, and you can get a legit one from VIP SCD Key for only $20 US. But since you're awesome, you can also use my code SKTBR to get an additional 18% off and get it for only $16 or around 800 pesos. You can purchase using your Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, and more. And as you can see, I actually purchased one for my build, and once completed, you can now activate your license by going to activation settings in Windows, click change product key, enter license, and click activate. And that's about it. Pretty straightforward, right? So check the link below and don't forget to use my code for an extra discount. Thanks to VIP SED Key for sponsoring this part of the video. Now, back to our review. Now, like I mentioned earlier, ASUS ROG also sent their new ROG PBT Double Shot Keycap set, and inside the box, it also comes with a set of stabilizers. However, upon close inspection, it is pretty similar to the default keycaps of the ROG Falchion, with just different sub-legends. They are both PBT double shot with pretty much the same thickness, so I didn't bother swapping the keycaps. I think this is for those who have older ROG keyboards that have ABS keycaps so that they can upgrade to these more durable PBT keycaps, or if they simply need a replacement, we have that option now. Alright, now what I appreciate with the ASUS ROG Falchion in terms of its wireless functionality is that instead of Bluetooth, they've decided to use 2.4 GHz radio frequency instead, which is better in terms of latency, and with the dedicated wireless dongle, the experience is pretty seamless, literally plug and play. Personally, while I like wireless peripherals, I'm not a fan of Bluetooth, especially the hassle of pairing, latency, and the occasional disconnections that might occur. I'm not exactly sure about the battery capacity, but it is rated up to 450 hours, and that is of course with illumination turned off. Now, in terms of the gaming experience, I can honestly say that this keyboard is built exactly for this purpose. The Cherry MX Red switches are lightweight enough that even though it is not as fast as something like the Cherry MX Silver, is decent enough to actuate the keys faster than heavier switches and faster than tactile and clicky switches because of the minimal resistance. And since it has a super compact 65% form factor and actually even shorter due to the shorter keys, you'll have a ton of real estate to move your mouse around, which to be honest is quite vital, at least for my personal preference. I also find the wireless performance of this keyboard absolutely capable even for fast-paced FPS gaming, as I didn't felt any significant latency and I didn't even realize that I was using a wireless keyboard when I played last night, so yeah. Now when it comes to the typing experience, it is good but not great. Like I said, I prefer the smoother typing experience with the ROG RX Red switches compared to the scratchier Cherry MX Red. And personally, I won't even bother lubing the switches on this as it is soldered and would take a lot of effort to do so. Alright, before we end this review, let's talk about the NKRO performance as well as the software so that you can have a better idea of how to take advantage of that unique side touch panel. So, the ASUS ROG Falchion as per specifications feature NKRO or N-key roll over, which is a feature that should allow you to press multiple keys at the same time without conflicts. However, as per my testing, I can only press up to 6 keys at the same time before I notice some key chatter as you can see here. I'm not 100% sure if it is about the key roll over, but yeah, every time I press the 7th key, it starts to chatter. And this is the case for both the wired and wireless mode. Oh yeah, by the way, I don't think I mentioned that already, You can also use this keyboard via a wired connection for zero latency. And lastly, in terms of the software, we have the ASUS Armory Crate, which is their all-in-one application gateway for all ASUS components and peripherals. So on the first tab, we have the keys, wherein you can pretty much change the functionality of a key to a different function like text input, other keyboard functions, mouse function, macro, application launcher, multimedia, and Windows shortcuts. Of course, you can also disable a key entirely. We also have here the option to disable Alt-Tab and Alt-F4, and aside from that, clicking this question mark icon reveals all the key combinations that you can take advantage of for the secondary layer of this keyboard. Moving on to the second tab, this is what I was talking about earlier. You can customize the functionality of the touch gestures of the side panel to essentially the same as what you can do with the keys, and actually more with the zoom functionality as you can see here. You can set this up for the swipe and tap gestures. You can also change the lighting effect of the touch panel here. The third tab is for lighting, and this is where we can really see the difference between a big brand like ASUS ROG and most budget OEM brands, as the customization options here is nowhere near those typical OEM softwares. So we have a bunch of different lighting effects, including the AuraSync feature, wherein you can sync the lighting effects of all your PC components and peripherals. Of course, we can change the colors via this color palette, adjust the brightness, speed of the animation, and as you can see, we have additional options in terms of the direction and thickness of the animation, something you won't see on other softwares. On the fourth tab, we have the power options, where we have nifty battery level information, an option to change the lighting alert for the battery level, the duration for the sleep mode, and the option to enable power saving mode. The last tab is pretty self-explanatory. This is where you can update the firmware of the ASUS ROG Falchion. That was a lot. Alright guys, so to conclude, I'll just list everything that I like and don't like about this keyboard so that you can decide for yourself if this unique keyboard from ASUS ROG is the one for you. So, what I like about this keyboard is the form factor. Regardless of its shortcomings, I appreciate that ASUS ROG is now offering a compact form factor for gamers. I also like the innovative, unique, and highly customizable side touch panel. And I also appreciate the polycarbonate cover that provides different benefits not only for protecting the keyboard from dust, but also adds more options in terms of the look and feel of the keyboard. But most importantly, I like that it is absolutely dependable in terms of its main purpose, and that is for gaming. The plug-and-play experience and almost zero latency performance of the 2.4 GHz wireless connectivity is something this keyboard can boast about, not to mention the long battery life it can provide. Now, on the other hand, what I don't like about this keyboard is that what you will get is probably what you will have for the rest of the lifespan of this keyboard. Customization is certainly out of the window unless you're willing to go the extra mile. The layout is non-standard and not just a single key but a bunch of others, making keycap customization a pain in the butt. Not to mention the annoying Costar stabilizers. I'm also quite baffled that they did not use the awesome ROG RX thread switches here and just go all out with that non-standard layout characteristics. And with all that being said, if your sole reason for purchasing this keyboard is for gaming and regular keyboard use, then I can definitely recommend this, especially given all the other useful and unique features it has to offer and its good performance. But if you're a keyboard enthusiast that wants to keep things fresh, then this is probably not for you. Again, this keyboard is targeted towards the Republic of Gamers more than anyone else. And there you have it guys, thank you for watching. Huge thanks to ASUS ROG for sending this in. You can get this from the link below. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you like this, and see you next time. Have a great day guys, you're awesome.